This is the Barbados Today afternoon news for Friday, April 13th. Thank you for joining us. I am Mary Claire Williams. We begin with news this afternoon over the continuing debate over school violence at the island's education institutions. In the latest contribution to the matter, retired Principal Jeff Broomes says he wants educators and other leaders to focus on engaging and motivating young people as one of the ways of addressing the problem. Broomes was speaking at a panel discussion last evening on the topic, Addressing Youth Violence, Protect Our Children, Save Our Country. The issue of school violence has been a major concern for principals, parents, and other officials in recent times.
The school and educational leaders must understand and focus on the importance of engagement, motivation, and responding to developmental needs of a diverse group. They must accept that if you make a child feel that he's not relevant or that he is a failure, he will prove you right. And to opt those who with various plans, they suggest to him that he has work. That is not what we want for our country. There are many persons in our society who are seen as examples for our young people to follow. Be they from the media, the number of NGOs, or the leaders end of civil or different influence, and can either uplift or misdirect our youth.
Former prostitute Natalie Harewood is getting the backing of a leading University of the West Indies social scientist to win her seat in this year's general election. Director of the Sir Arthur Lewis Institute for Social and Economic Studies, Dr. Dawn Marshall, is also urging voters not to regard Natalie's entry into the parliamentary race as a joke.
I applaud her for changing the conversation about the city and getting us back to thinking about ways in which we could re-urbanize Bridgetown and Greater Bridgetown to reflect a new way forward. A new vision. And while she has not articulated it all in one place, there's a sense in which, because she's there to focus on the immiseration and the poverty of the city, that the other candidates are forced to raise their game and to think strategically about the way in which the city can be transformed. So that's good. I applaud her for that. She's already won in my books, and that is not something to make mock sport about.
Marshall is also supporting Prime Minister Frendel Stewart's decision to delay calling the general election during the 90-day period following the automatic dissolution of Parliament.
I think it gives the candidates more time to rub shoulders, to engage citizens more, build up their data bank of the information. I see nothing wrong if you're seeking to genuinely represent people, that you should feel that this period is an extended period. There's nothing wrong with going and having this elaborate time for canvassing. I actually am enjoying the fact that the people have a chance to, in this period, to see wannabe representatives a bit more than normal.
The broadcasting fraternity is mourning the loss of veteran broadcaster Vic Brewster. Popularly known as Buddy Boy Vic Brewster, the former deputy program manager at the state-owned Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, passed away last night after a long illness. Another veteran broadcaster, Vic Fernandez, described Brewster as a rounded individual who was more than just a broadcaster.
Vic Brewster was the original DJ of Barbados. He was the first person who operated equipment and chatted on air at the same time. He had a lot of cute handles and, hello and hi, friendly cousins, this is your buddy boy, Vic Brewster, and so on. And then he would describe himself in some very flowing terms. He used terms like, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And he was very much prominent as an on-air personality. You needed to get your music on Vic Brewster's show if you wanted it to go somewhere. He was the official MC for the Merry Men. They were the biggest group in the Caribbean, touring all over the world, and he was their official MC. He was also a man who MC'd all the major shows, the Caribbean Pepper Pot. He was the man who ran the floor shows there as well. Vic was a very rounded individual, but he was more than that. He also went on to become a television producer. He spent some time at Syracuse University getting specialized training. And when he came back, he directed the news. He directed a number of television programs, Studio Party, and a number of others, which were the embryonic stages of many of the performers that you see in today's world of entertainment.
Chairman of the Barbados Broadcasting Authority and former program manager for radio at CBC, Win Callender, said the broadcasting sector will be worse off with Brewster's passing.
I was in his era, the latter part of his radio era time, because I remember listening to Vic Brewster, Buddy Boy Brewster, when I was a student at Foundation School. And a bunch of us used to have a little transistor radio where we could listen to Break with Brewster, which was the show of the time. And then later on in life, I got to work at CBC with him. And he has always been the professional, and he was a trendsetter in radio, becoming the first quote-unquote radio DJ in Barbados. And he has nurtured a lot of young talent in the broadcast industry, and a lot of the presenters for weather, etc. He was the one working with them, and he believed that he had a contribution to make to his last days before retirement, and he continued to do that. I'm sure that the broadcast industry would be worse off at his loss.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Thank you for staying with us. We're back with news from the region, and we go to Trinidad, where police are questioning a 17-year-old boy over the death of a 15-month-old baby girl. Police say the baby died as a result of blunt force trauma to the back, spine, and head. She was also raped. Lawmen said the child was left in the care of the 17-year-old relative on Wednesday, and when her mother returned home in the south of Trinidad, she found the infant unresponsive. The child was rushed to a healthcare facility in Siparia, where she was pronounced dead. Guyana says it is monitoring the impact of the recent U.S. sanctions against Russia. We get the details in this report from HGP Nightly News.
Last week, the United States government imposed a slew of sanctions on Russia, including asset freezing, financial restrictions, among other critical restrictions. The sanctions increased the risk that Russian companies could lose access to the U.S. market, which accounted for about 14% of Rusal's revenue in 2017. Nightly News queried from Foreign Minister Carl Greenwich Wednesday at State House whether the Guyana government is keeping an eye on this matter.
We are looking at the implications. It's not easy to get an instant analysis of the situation, so we have to look to work out what the implications are. We are concerned, of course, to do that quickly so that we can avoid any adverse consequences on the social side as regards employment and so forth.
Rusal operations here have been called into question many times by the trade union movement and even politicians who at some point held the view that the company was flouting the country's labor laws while unfairly treating the Guyanese workers. About the matter at hand, the minister said that all information on the matter has not been made available just yet.
At this point in time, I don't think that either we or the company would be in a position to say this is what's going to happen tomorrow as a consequence.
In other fallout from the new sanctions, Rusal saw its share price plummet after the company and co-owner Derry Pasca were targeted, prompting the producer to warn of potential debt defaults. Rusal stock nearly halved to $2.39 Hong Kong in China trading on April 9, while aluminum prices surged. Rusal shares were losing more than 20% in Moscow Stock Exchange.
On the international scene, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that the reported chemical attack in Syria was staged by foreign agents. A spokesman for Russia's defense ministry accused the UK of being involved in the attack. The US and France say they have proof it took place and they are considering military retaliation alongside the UK. Russia has military forces deployed in Syria in support of the government there, and it warned that Western airstrikes risk starting a war. Lavrov said Friday the attack was staged as part of a Russophobic campaign led by one country, which he did not name. And Russia's lower house of parliament is to consider draft legislation that would give the Kremlin powers to ban or restrict a number of U.S. imports. This is in reaction to the U.S. sanctions on a group of Russian tycoons and officials. Senior lawmakers at the State of Duma, which is dominated by Kremlin loyalists, say they prepared the list ranging from food and alcohol to medicine and consulting services in response to Washington's move last week. It was not immediately clear if it would become law in its current form or if it had the backing of the Kremlin. And that's news this afternoon. Remember, you can get more on our website, www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're on Izumi Media in bus terminals and on Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also find us on Mix 96.9 FM. I am Mary Claire Williams. Good afternoon.